Hey, welcome back to the Truth of Transformation podcast. Now, I'm hoping that as a listener, you're already someone that is in the gym, someone who's overcome some of that fear, some of the comparison that tends to want to wander into our brains as if everybody is looking at us and we're not doing enough and they're staring at us and that's all they're thinking about. And hopefully you've overcome that and realized, nope, they're just focused on them and they're having the same thoughts. And you're in the gym and you're making progress. And hopefully you found your tribe, your group, and you're enjoying the environmental aspects that are coming from that. And hopefully that it's trickling over into your house, and it's helping you shape your environment at home and how your kitchen is organized, how your home life is organized to better balance stress so that you're not immediately triggered by that little thing that's carried around in your purse or your pocket. So all of these things are wonderful. But if you haven't yet, then this is the podcast for you, because today's guest is Marcus McDuffie, who is a amazing coach within the fitness world, and he owns Aion Training in Pasadena, California. And he also does a lot of online training as well, puts out amazing content. And so he's my guest today, and that's where we go down, talking about how to overcome gym intimidation when you're first starting out, what gym to look for, what to ask when finding a coach, and what environment needs to be to help you succeed. And so it's an amazing conversation. We go down many different paths. I had a lot of insights with it that I probably talked too much on this one, but I found some really fascinating things that I hope you find to be helpful as well. So without further ado, excited to announce my good friend and colleague, Marcus McDuffie. Marcus McDuffie, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Justin. Thanks for having me, man.
Heck yeah, you're one of my favorite people, and so I hope that comes through definitely for listeners, because you're not only a wealth of knowledge, but a truly passionate trainer and coach, and just someone who's making a huge ripple in the fitness and nutrition space for so many lives, and pretty new to it ultimately. And I'm excited to just hear what you have to say, because I know that your future is so bright and you're going to just continue to affect so many lives.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. I mean, definitely picked that up from mentors like you and a couple other guys that, really helped shape me this far. So appreciate that. Sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's interesting. Like, I know we've got some directions that we want to go with this one, just because of your knowledge and what we know we can help highlight for people. But you said mentors, right? Like, I think that's such a key piece of how you approach it. I'm curious, because you're really a mentor to your clients. Like, so curious kind of your thought process on what it means to be a mentor, even though this wasn't the direction we're going to go.
I'm fully for it. So being a mentor, just like, it just means that, like, you're meeting these people where they're at, understanding where these people are, and just finding a way to, like, help them get to where they are, and, like, that's going to take a different, that's going to, like, be a different approach for every single person, but just, like, being able to, like, see, like, this is where this person is, not judging them to anybody else or, like, anything like that. And you really, like, mentor every single person in a different way, depending on, like, where they're trying to go, so that's the dope thing about, like, the mentors I've had is, like, I've been, like, at certain points in my life where I have no clue where everything's going, and, like, they'll help me get to that part. And there's other parts where I'm like, damn, like, I'm right here. I just need that little extra step. And, you just got to be able to, like, see where that person is, see what that person wants, be able to, like, help guide them and give them the step that they need at that point, So that's really what, like, being a mentor is about.
Yeah. And I love that. It's meeting them where they're at is exactly what you said, and giving them the tools that they might need for that next step, whether it's a big step or a small step. And ultimately, like, we definitely all need it, for sure. Yeah. So I think that's so cool. Like, thinking about it on the other side of the spectrum too, like, what do you think it takes to be a good mentee? Because I think a lot of people, they want to change, they want to transform. We know this. We were just talking about, like, before the podcast, even, how to help people get some key pieces with nutrition to stick, right? And I think sometimes we're not exactly coachable, right? I know there's been times in my life where I've paid some mentors and had some phenomenal ones. They're probably looking at me like, Joseph, I'm giving you the tools. I'm walking you through the steps. Like, I'm, meeting you where you're at, and you're not doing the work. And so I'm curious, what does it take to be a good mentee or to be coachable?
With that, it's just like, you really got to sit there, especially if it's something that, like, if you truly believe in that person that you're working with, and that's, like, one of the biggest things. Like, if you're going to sign up for a mentorship or something, like, you have to choose someone that, like, you actually believe in and that is, like, that you feel like can get you from where you are now to where you want to be. And at that point, like, you just got to just have that trust. Like, you have to just be open and willing to take these steps. You know, like, it's so hard sometimes. You're like, man, like, this seems like a lot of work, or man, like, does this dude really know what he's talking about, or does this lady already know what she's talking about? And it's like, if you really want to make the progress, like, regardless of what that end result ends up being, like, you just have to be open the entire time, like, willing to take that little step forward every single time, and like open and receptive to like what your mentor is like telling you or suggesting that you do, you know? And like, if you can do that, if you can just like be open and be willing to take, like, even if it's not a huge step that they want to, like a little step in the right direction, like you'll honestly get like the best progress out of that.
Yeah. No, that's so good. Yeah, you even had me as you're talking and kind of reflecting on like some of the mentors that I had in the past. And one of them, he was on the show right at kind of the beginning of the podcast, AJ Roberts. And I remember one of my favorite mentors of all time. He has some phenomenal ones, but literally like we were going through some stuff, mapping out the business. And then he just like looks over at me, and there are like 8 other people in the room where at the time at his like Vegas mansion. And he goes, you don't need any of this right now. You just need to figure out levels of consciousness and meeting people where you're at and where they're at. And so it's like that full circle of what you just were talking about earlier, you know? And he's like, you need to forget the business stuff and apply this to your own life, and then you'll be okay. And like, I was like, wait, what? I was so lost, right, for a second there. And he's like, no, seriously, man, just apply this to your life. And he was like, you need to eliminate some of the roadblocks in your life, and then you can actually apply this stuff. And it was that, and that's, I think, what a mentorship really is, right? Like I was there for like business guidance and building structures and funnels and like all this kind of stuff. And he goes, no, it's a life roadblock. And he was then of course willing to like walk me through it. And it was crazy. And I'm like, man, like the rest of that mentorship, I pretty much tuned out of all the business stuff and excelled in life because
of that.
And it was like, man, a good mentor, like they're going to see this stuff. But if I didn't surrender, like you said, you used that word, I thought that was, man, so critical. And just then trust the process. How would I ever have gotten there? So it's cool. You took me back to that memory.
I just hope you mentioned that too, because I know that's been one of the things that I've like learned more from my current mentors, Luke and Steve. You know, and like I'll talk to clients now, and they'll be like, "Oh, you know, like this is happening with my workouts. You know, I'm in this pain," and I'm like, "All right, first off, just like take some time and breathe, and like, you know, what are you doing outside of workouts to calm yourself down? You know, like, what are you doing outside of here for yourself? You know, like, because we'll have people like me, like we both know, you'll have somebody come in who works like 70 hours a week in this super stressful job, you know, like managing this whole company, you know, they're stressed out and they come in like, yeah, their workout is relaxing for them, but still like a high stress environment, you know?
Right.
Like, this is good for you, but we also need to take like some time for you to just like sit down on the side and like worry about this. Like, I've told people pick up coloring books and just start like or something, you know, like because you need that other time to like focus on those other things. So that's dope that you mentioned that too. That, you know, the problem that you think you have isn't always the one that you need to work on. Yeah,
and it takes like having a coach and having someone. I think that's why it's so needed, and that's the piece of Coachable that you're kind of talking about. It's interesting, right? Like so. And this is just something I've been studying of late, and then we'll get to some good nutrition kind of topics and gym topics and stuff like that. But I think this is helpful for people, right? Like, because they are, you know, most of us are in a high stress state, whether it's like kids, work, family members, like bills, there's so many different things. And then all of these heightened other pieces, traffic, if you're in, you know, LA, and then you got fires burning around at this time everywhere.
Right.
Like there's so much stress. And then you got all the political stuff with news that is happening. And so there's so much more of it that we even realize. And then we go and we do a really intense workout, which is creating more stress. And sometimes it is about that. Like you said, take a breath. And, you know, it's funny, right? Monks and everybody like have been saying it's all about the breath, just breathe for like 5,000 years. And it's like, we're just now catching up to realize, oh wait, maybe they're onto something, you know? Because it's really like, this is what I try and tell people. I'm like, man, it's the only tool that we have that, you know, your breath will happen automatically. You're going to keep breathing automatically, but you can also control your breath. So yes, it is a automatic response that is going to continue to happen to keep you alive, but you can also use your brain to control it. So therefore it can just be like this heightened response through anxiety and different things, or you can actually use it as a tool to calm you down. It's it's pretty cool. So even when
Yeah.
you're talking, you're like, take a breath and then go into it. And it's like, that
Yeah,
does,
exactly.
it creates that space for you to be able to think and realize, like, maybe I don't need to keep beating myself up with an intense workout and then do more intensity. And I just need to do some mobility drills and then let Coach Marcus put me in the corner with with a mobility ball and feel better. So yeah, no, that's cool. All right, man. So we got such good topics and stuff that you wanted to bring up, which I love. So, the first one that I really want to talk about, because it's something you do extremely well and something that I think a lot of people kind of need, is there's so much stuff out there, and there's so much gym intimidation, I feel like, right? It's like now more than ever, we see all this really cool stuff on social media and we're like, oh man, do I need to do that to be in a gym? Do I need to join a CrossFit gym? Do I need to, be doing all of these really intense things? And for the majority of us, there's some kind of shoulder, some kind of back, some kind of knee, and you're just going like,
Yeah.
I can't do that. I can't keep up. And so there's so much like intimidation, and I think that's the biggest barrier, is getting started. I think that's one of the things you're really good at, right? Is fostering and nurturing a community and an environment that is safe for people and being able to show that they can even do that. So, for listeners that are, because we got plenty of people that listen to the show and they're just trying to get going, right? And they're seeking valid information and trying to learn the right ways. So, drop some wisdom on what you think just needs to happen kind of from day one in the gym.
Yeah. So day one in the gym, like to the point where you built the confidence, like it's your first day you're walking in, you put on the gym shorts, you got your bag packed and everything, like you're ready, you're good to go. I think the first thing that you have to do before you walk in that door is like, know that this is about you, this is for you, and this isn't like you impressing the gym. Like this is you taking a step forward in your life to better yourself, to make your body better, to live longer with your family, whatever it may be, So it's like one of the biggest things that I see from the new clients is like, especially like some of our group classes, they'll be like, oh, she's so strong over there. Like, I don't really feel like I can be in the same area as her, or, oh, all these people here, like they're lifting weights like this. And like, I'm over here with this weight. And it's like, in a messed up kind of way, it's like everyone respects you for being there, but nobody cares that you're there except for you. It's like, no one cares.
Damn, that's good.
Everyone in the gym, like people respect people for going to the gym. Like if you taking the confidence, you taking that step to be there, everyone else in the gym and everyone else outside the gym respects you for going to do that. But once you start your workout, it's like you're just doing your own thing. No one's like staring you down and being like, oh man, I wish that, well, what is she doing here? It's like, oh, okay, well, she's doing her thing. I'm gonna go do my own thing, I think that's such a dope first thing for people to understand is like, turn on the blinders, do your thing. If you see somebody else doing something cool, throw it in there. That's dope. But like you don't have to compare yourself to anyone else because this is your own journey and you are your own thing. So I think that's like the biggest first step for everything. And the other hardest part for people is just like staying consistent.
Yeah.
Once you do, take step one and get in, all right, now you've earned the right. You're going to step two now, which is like trying to build some kind of consistency. And, James Clear talks about this where it's just like taking that little baby step every single time, like set your baseline, meet your baseline, and then move it up just a little bit. So if like you're someone who, you're just trying to start off right now, set your goal as like for 2 times a week, you're going to just go into the gym and you're going to work out for 30 minutes. Like set the time, set like the amount you're going to do per week, set like every single thing. So there's nothing for you to think about. There's nothing that has to go on. And it's just like, this is in my Google Calendar for this time, for this block. I'm going to go fill out my block and then I'm going to go do the rest of my day, And then once you like continuously fill out those blocks, like you add another block, all right, now we're going 3 times a week. And like the dope thing about this is that you make that big transition from I'm John, the dude who's starting to start off on day one, I really want to go work out, to I'm John, I'm someone who goes to the gym 3 times a week. I am someone who works out. And it's that I feel like a lot of times, like if people don't make that transition from I'm someone who's trying to do this to I'm someone who does do this, like that's where that fall off can tend to happen. There's a lot of other factors, but like that's like a big gap right there from wanting to be and actually being.
Yeah, that identity shift is so huge, right? Because otherwise it's like, am I someone who goes to the gym, or am I someone who adopts and lives a healthy lifestyle? And you're saying, like, if we can eliminate the obstacles really by just writing it down, which seems like I don't need to do that, right? I don't need to do, small and slow. And I'm ready now. I'm actually ready in this position. So I want to go faster. I want to do this, right? Like, I'm ready to try this. But then you're still using those language markers of, try and different things. And you haven't made the identity shift. And two, I think the other piece, like, small and little and slow, like these things, like, yes, that is definitely the right way to build upon it. But man, those words, they're hard for us to absorb that, like, that's what I need to do. And I think one of the things that can be really, really huge is to say, no, like, this is, you talked about it, like, write it down, put it down. Like, that's my strategy, right? So it's like, I'm going to use this strategy to build to where I need to be. And that's going back to what you initially talked about, which is like meet people where they're at. So, so love it for sure. Well, how do you help people who are trying to put those blinders on? Because that comparison mindset when you're in the gym, and especially when you're starting out and you think everyone's judging you and looking at you, and yet, like you said, they're probably just respecting you for being there. How do you help people kind of recognize the value of that and the reality that that's the way it is?
Well, one of the dope things is, like, at least like with what we have is, like, first off, like when you come in and you work out, you actually have a coach. Like, one, you have like a buffer system for everything else. Like, if you're someone who's really, really afraid of that first day, like, just go out, get yourself a coach, and then you have that buffer. Also, like, that takes away all your thought processes. Like, you no longer have to go in and think about, like, what am I going to do today? Like, I'm really unsure. Like, I don't know where I'm at. It's like, the less that we can get you to think about it, at least like when you're starting off, like, the better you're going to do. That's why I'm saying, like, create the blocks, create the whole plan if you're going by yourself, and not like go get yourself a coach, and then just like run through it. It's like, the less you think about all these other factors, and the more that you can just key in on like these blocks and these times and these things that you already have set up for yourself, the easier it becomes for you. And as far as like people who really do like compare themselves all the time, and I mean, like, in today's day and age, like with social media, especially for like younger people, it's like every single time you log on to anything, every single time you try to check any type of news, you're probably going to get something else there that's like going to make you kind of compare yourself to where someone else is or what someone else is doing. Like, everybody shows the top of the mountain, like their successes, and you think that's all that exists. And it's just like, one time, like, we'll see, like, we have a bunch of ladies now which are like super, super fit, and we'll have someone new join on and like, oh, like, she's much fitter. And I'm like, all right, go talk to her. Talk to her about for day one and what day one was like for her, and like how she was struggling just as much, how she was kind of out of breath, how she was sore the next day. And it's like, that's just a part of your beginning. The dope part about it is, and one of the cool things, like, if you want to compare anything, compare these people as like, oh, like, being there is actually possible. It's like, if you want to compare anything at all, you can say, like, everybody started probably around where I am. Like, I see people now and I'll see like things, I'm like, oh, that's dope. Like, I didn't think, like, if I work and I stay consistent to things and I'm on my nutrition, like, oh, that's actually like something that I can do. Oh, I can lift weight like this. Oh, I can like have my arms or whatever you want to do, look like that. And it's because all you got to do is like follow your own journey, follow your own path, and like progress is inevitable.
Yeah.
Consistency breeds progress. So like, if you stay consistent and just keep going over and over and over and over, like, you're going to get some type of progress. You just got to be able to like hit that first part, which is like the consistency part of it.
Yeah. And I think like one of the main things for consistency more than anything else is environment, right? And environment definitely is probably what breeds that desire to come back, or makes it much easier. If it's just bland tan walls and, no one's talking to you and everyone's in their own headphones in that own world, it's hard, right? Like, it's harder at some of these big box gyms, and that's why like small communities like yours are so huge. So curious, like, talking about environment and stuff like that, like your kind of thoughts and inputs on how to find the right environment for you if you're out there searching, like, you know, searching for a coach, searching to get back in the gym. As people are listening, they're like, yeah, but I just don't know what I'm looking for. Like, you know, so fill us in on what makes a good environment, how to go about it.
Yeah, so good environment, like that's going to change from person to person. You know, like you honestly just have to go out and, you know, based off like content people put out, based off like the vibe that you get from people when you first get on, like for most part, like you've gone into like a room before and like with people that you've never met, and you've been able to find out like, oh, like these people seem pretty cool. Like I can see myself hanging out with these people, or like, uh,
Yeah.
I don't know how long I'm gonna be here, you know. And like you just have to find your room of cool people. Like you have to, even if that means like you try out a couple different spots at the beginning, like that's gonna be so valuable for you once you actually find your group of people, you know. Just because like if you can find friends, friends will keep you more accountable, friends will push you to be better than you ever have before, unlike, you know, sometimes even unlike a coach could do, you know, because they're like all on the same journey with you, you know. And they're all trying to do the same things. The tough part is like so many people do end up, like you said, like going to these big box gyms where there is no community in it, you know. It is like I'm my one person doing this, I'm the one person doing this, and everything else is pretty separate, you know. So it's just like the biggest thing for people at the very beginning is like to go try out a couple different things and find like what's their group and what does their group look like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's so crucial. And obviously the big box gym stuff is needed, right? We all sometimes need that plug in your headphones to just go solo it out and whatever, especially once we're in our rhythm and stuff. But I think that environment piece is so critical. And it obviously like expands way beyond that, right? Like your environment of your home and your kitchen and like all of that is really going to be a determinant of success. Like, wouldn't you
Yeah,
say?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, 100%, 100%. Another thing is just like for people to make it easier on themselves. Like if we do talk about like, you know, at home and in the kitchen, like many people want to like choose a path instead of just being the driver, you know? And it's like so many people like keep things in their house that they know that they don't actually want to eat, but they know the moment that they get stressed out, like that's gonna be the first thing they run to, and then they're gonna feel
Yeah.
like or whatever for it is the next day. You know, it's like I encourage people to like to be the driver, to be the one that's in the driver's seat in their own life, instead of like being a passenger and just letting life take them wherever it may be. Where it's like, you know, if you're someone who knows you like you crave sweets all the time and like you know if you have ice cream in the fridge, like you're just gonna eat the whole thing, you know, like don't
That's me.
there. Yeah, that's why I brought it up. So I remember you brought that up too. It's like
Oh man.
don't put it there, you know, like if you're someone who struggles with like eating healthier foods, like put those in the front of the fridge, you know, like do these small things that make you the driver and then make your whole journey easier. You know, like would you rather go with every single red light and have to hit every red light and then decide, or would you want to just like go straight through? You know, once again, like goes back to what I was saying before, like the fewer thoughts that you actually have to put in and like reassess for things that you want to do, the easier that it becomes, you know?
Yeah.
So there's people like if there's a route that you take every single time you get off of work and it has like 8 fast food places and every time you have to make a stop and look over and be like, oh, I could just stop there and get some food on the way home. Like I am pretty hungry. Like take another route. It makes it 2 minutes harder, or like it's 2 minutes longer, but it'll like make all the biggest difference. I had one lady who she said, like Marcus, like I want to stop drinking wine so much. I feel like I drink too much wine during the week, and it's really like sabotaging my progress. And I was like, okay, what do you think you can do? Like, where are you getting your wine from? And she's like, oh, I have like this wine subscription that delivers it to me every 2 weeks. And I'm like, all right, cool. Go ahead, email them that you're gonna cancel it. She was like, but I like those. And I was like, okay, well, you can go out to the store and buy it when you so choose so. But the fact that like this thing is getting delivered to your house every 2 weeks and it doesn't align with where you want to go, you're honestly just making it hard on yourself. I'm like, and not everything has to be that invasive or like that dramatic, but it's like,
Yeah.
make things easier on yourself in every way that you can. And that just primes you for like success, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really true, right? It's like the easier it is for you to succeed is the green light. And the things that you don't want to be there, like the wine subscription, you want the red light, and you want to put more obstacles in your way so that, not saying that you can't have them, or any kind of blame or shame needs to sit with you emotionally because of it, but it does need to just be a little bit more of a challenge so that when you go for it, you're like, it's not worth all of the effort at this point. And then you get past that probably initial craving, which is just probably a response to some kind of emotional trigger and different things. And then you realize like, oh yeah, I'm actually making the progress that I want. Yeah. And I think it is that piece you're talking about, like that identity, right? Like I think the reason a lot of times we don't make that complete journey over, or we keep those things in the house, right? And we save them, is because we don't fully buy into the belief that we can change, or that will be something permanent. So it's, that embodiment of identity isn't fully there, to literally say like, no, I am lean. I am this person. I am fit and strong, and I work out 5 times a week, or whatever the case may be, and it's adopted as a phase, which is why we see so many short-term fads, 7-day detox, 14-day, tummy tuck, 21-day skinny jeans. I don't know. I'm just making up these titles, but they're probably pretty accurate, right? And we do that because we know that's the only thing that we can stick to that is that extreme, instead of the simple and strategic like you were talking about. So yeah, I think that makes sense. So then walk me through, like when you're helping people set goals, what's kind of the process, for that?
So what we start with is we take like their initial, like, what is your initial like 6-month goal? Like what is, like, ideally if everything in the world went right under control, like in 6 months, like where are you going to be at? Where it's like, it's not super long. It's not like, 2-3 years from now. It's like something that they can actually see. Like I can kind of picture like where I'm going to be at in 6 months to some degree, and then
I literally pictured myself standing on the top of Denali, like with my ice axe. Like, so yeah, I'm with it.
Yeah, perfect. So it's like we choose something that they can see, but it's still like pretty far out. And then we break that down to like, all right, like at the end of this week, like what can we do to make a step towards that goal? And then we kind of break it down from there. It's like we set like processes and habits along that way that are going to get you to that goal, as opposed to like, if your goal in 6 months is to be, you see yourself as like 15 pounds lighter, then okay, like let's look at what's happening right now in your life. Let's look at what has to change, and let's make little steps. Once again, that big thing of like little steps. Like don't just fully jump in the water. Well, sometimes you have to jump in the water, but like if your goal is to lose 20 pounds, don't try to lose that 20 pounds in like 4 weeks. Don't try to like go on fad diets. Don't try to like, juice cleanse for 4 weeks straight, just to lose that 20 pounds. Because for most people, if not, well, almost everyone, your goal is to lose that 20 pounds and keep it off forever. Is to get.
Well, and I think a lot of times too, it's like, well, what 20 pounds do you want to lose? Yeah. Are you just tied to this number on the scale? Like, and if you are, that is fine. And we can have a conversation around that. Right. But is it the 20 pounds that you want to lose, or is it a certain feeling that weighing that is going to help you embody, right? Yeah. And that's the identity that you want. That's the craving, is probably some kind of attachment to that feeling. And so the only way we're going to get there is if we're losing, about that amount of fat and not just 20 pounds. Because exactly. If you really want to lose 20 pounds in the next few days, we can go on an extreme water cut. I'm happy to help you. We'll go fighter status, right? But what is the feeling? Yeah. So I think that's so critical, like what you're talking about, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's cool. And then from there, like once you've set that, what's kind of the system for consistency and stuff that people can follow? Because I think that's where people are like, I've gotten really clear on that. Like he's spot on, and I get it, and I want to do that, and I feel like I'm doing it for the right reasons, and I know why it matters to me. I have a deep why, and I'm setting small stuff, but I still can't stick with it, or what? Like, what are the next steps for accountability and consistency?
Yeah, for the next steps are just like we just do check-ins. So basically, like we'll set a goal for like just that 1 week, and like, all right, like every day for the week, I don't want you to really focus on anything else. I don't want you to overwhelm yourself. Like we're gonna do like this one thing. Like we're just gonna focus on, for some people who don't eat breakfast or lunch, and like they just like go crazy ham on dinner. Like we'll be like, all right, your only goal for this week is like eat like a breakfast with some type of protein and veggie in it. or eating like some type of protein and fruit. And like, that's literally the only goal that we want you to set. The only thing I want you to focus on trying to hit every single day this week. And then at the end of that week, like, we'll do a check-in, like, so people at home, like, they can get a notebook and like write down like week one's goal, check it off for 7 days of the week. If you get at least like 5 to 7 of the checks, like, you're almost ready, like, to go to that next goal. And then you write down the step, which is like, all right, we're going to start implementing some type of lunch for you now, which is like protein and veggie based, something like that is achievable for you, like not too hard, and then you check off those days. And it's like, literally, like, we just keep adding in one small thing and have you check that off. So like, to that point, you never get overwhelmed. You never feel like you're trying to manage 40 different things at the same time. Because like you said, there are like 70 different diets that you can do. There's like 80 different things that people can change that'll all garner them results, maybe, but most people like will try all these different things and they'll get overwhelmed. And once you get overwhelmed, you feel like you can't continue on, which is like such a tough thing, and it's, break it down and just have you focus on like, this is your goal. Like, this is your step to becoming that new person for this week. Just master that, and I feel like that's like really, really successful for us as far as, getting people like make that progress and get those results.
Yeah. No, and I'm hearing two pieces that I think are like really key, right? And the first one is just keeping it to the big blocks of the root of nutrition, right? Because those can stick with you no matter where you're at, whether you're eating out. Some of these diets, like, you can't go at a friend's house, you can't eat out, you can't, like, you're just like living this life of, I can't. And then that whole environment piece that we were talking about earlier is just ruined. And so I think it covers that across the spectrum. And two, like, it sounds easy, but it's actually a lot harder. And so, I mean, like, 10% of Americans, according to the CDC, actually get the recommended dose of vegetables in an average day. And so we know that we're not hitting that. And so it's probably a bigger shift and a bigger change than we think, even if you're just focusing on one meal or one element of a meal. And so I think, for some people that are listening, they're like, yeah, but it's too easy and I need to do this. And like, it's probably not. Otherwise we would have been doing it. Right. So, so I think that's smart. And then the ability to just check in each week is super helpful. That's the only way I've ever succeeded in anything, is like, if I don't have some way to report it, to track it, to measure it, it's probably just not going to happen, So, but I think it's good. It's painting the picture, from a nutrition standpoint. And I'm curious your thoughts on like the fitness standpoint of what's needed, but you're really like setting the tone for, like you said, forever, and I think the same kind of elements apply from a fitness perspective. I think too often we get out of high school or college and we probably played some sports or we worked out for a time frame, and then 20 years goes by and then we're like, oh snap, career's set, kids are going, now I need to start taking care of myself. I'll just go back to doing what I used to do. Cause like, I don't know, but it's almost like the brain doesn't remember or doesn't recognize that we're totally different and we have been sedentary for a long period of time and different in there. And so we like want to jump into what's popular, instead of thinking like the way we're trying to explain nutrition, that it's got to be forever and what do we need to focus on. So curious, like kind of your elements for, building much more of a lifelong strong type mindset and body from a fitness perspective.
Yeah. So the whole thing behind that, and like the lifelong strong, is like our mantra that you just brought up, is like, we are trying to set the stage for you to live well and be able to feel good for the rest of your life. Like, if you are someone who like, I love it. I love that you have that motivation. I love that like it's 20 years, your family is set, and now you're like, okay, I have to put on my own air mask now. Like, I have to breathe. I have to go and take care of myself. I absolutely love it. But what I don't want people to do is like, jump straight in and go like 7 days a week. And then you get burned out. And then, your body starts to hurt, and then once your body starts hurting, you start to get injuries, you start to get breakdown. It becomes tougher for you to continue to do what you love, what you want to get back into doing. And then you're kind of back in that same spot, So it's like similar to like anyone who's lifted before. Like, you don't start off with 100 pounds, like you start off with 5 or 10, and then you come back next week and you add another 5 or 10. And like, that's how we have to approach all these other things, is like add your 5 to 10 every week, like, no, we don't stay stagnant, like we try to make some type of progress every week. We don't do, 5 pounds for like 7 months, but we like slowly add. And then by the end of it, you're like, oh, dang, like I'm at my 100 pounds now, or like, and for what people are doing. Like you start off with like your 2 or 3 days, you see how your body's feeling, you test things out, and then you're like, okay, like that felt good. Let me add a couple more minutes. Let me add one more day or something like that. And we build you up from there. And that's so important because like, yeah, it's so true what you say. And we'll see this like big time in runners. Like I know you've probably seen this before, like not runners, but people who decide to start running and they'll be like, okay, I'm going to go run around the Rose Bowl for, 7 days a week for extra cardio.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. I love it. Hell yeah. But let's start you off with like 1 day a week. Then let's go like 2 days a week after, or let's go like, minutes and then, come back and then go back the next day and do like 25 minutes, So it's like, I'm always for people like trying to go out and chase these things. I just want them to do it in a way where it's like you can chase these things for the rest of your life instead of chasing it for 2 months. You burn out, you get hurt, and then we have to kind of like reset you back to like phase one, which no one likes to do,
Yeah. I think a lot of that comes around having clarity of what matters and where you want to be long term. Like I always say, I want to die young at a really old age. Just meaning like I want to live to be like 100 and something years old, but I want to be young in that body and in that mind at that time frame instead of the opposite, which is kind of common where, people do actually die young, but in an older body. And the last few years are quite miserable and people are taking care of you that you had tried to set up your whole life for them to not have to take care of you. But by neglecting to take care of yourself, you kind of set that up. Right. And so it's knowing that, I think that's absolutely critical, is knowing what is the true outcome that I'm looking for and having clear intentions of those pieces. And it's hard because you're just thinking like, I want to lose 20 pounds so I feel better, and look better. And therefore, I regain some confidence. And there's probably something immediate that we're lacking emotionally, right? Like we're not having the connection with a significant other, or we're not feeling desired anymore. We're not feeling wanted. There's probably some emotional thing we're trying to fix now. And we're chasing that and not being able to see that big picture and pull back and go, great, I'm all for trying to fix that. But, again, it's like we were talking about the mentor piece. Like sometimes I think we use the body as kind of this escape or mechanism to try and really, we're trying to Band-Aid other aspects. It's not really about the weight. It's about something that it's creating a feeling. And so if we can tap into that and be smart, then we can use fitness as a powerful, wonderful tool to help regulate a lot of our emotions for years to come.
Yeah. It's funny you say that too, because like back to what I said, is like what you said is like we're trying to like help all these other people and deal with all these other things. It's like I feel like, when you're on the airplane, they tell you like the thing drops down, put your mask on first and then assist other people, and like so many people are out there trying to like help all these other people and do all these other things, which are great and amazing. Like way too often do people not sit down and like think about like what's going on with me, like what am I feeling right now? Like when was the last time that I took rest? When was the last time I had some alone time for myself to really just sit there and focus on like, what is Marcus feeling right now? Like, yes, everybody else in the world is important and you need to be able to help them, but you can't really help other people until you take that step back and like try to help yourself out,
Yeah.
That's so you brought that part up too.
Yeah. And it's interesting. And I think we're starting to see some shifts, as these topics are being talked about more. What I've seen is, there's the moms who, the powerhouse that, man, they just do it all. And there's almost a level of shame if they are to, put themselves first in that regard, or to take care of themselves. And that's a hard thing. Shame is a very, very powerful thing. And then for men, it's almost this opposite of, it's not manly to take care of yourself. Right. Yeah. Like, and it's the mask of masculinity, so to speak. Right. And so you have like this shame dichotomy and this masculinity thing of like, nah, I don't go to the doctor. I don't need to take care of myself. I'm a provider. Like in this weird, like grind hustle type thing. And I think we're slowly getting there and recognizing, that those things need to shift. But only the way it's going to happen is with consistent conversations and bringing things to the forefront to be like, it's okay. Stop, breathe. Like you said earlier, take a breath right now. right? Because then you like actually slow things down and like start to sense what's really going on. Like, you know, we're such in this like fight or flight or freeze type focus. So, so I think that's so critical for that lifelong fitness type of approach, and to kind of recognize it. I know I'm kind of all over the map, but you just triggered like some good stuff. So I'm curious, like your thoughts on all the pieces, just about, you know, like typically people dealing with shame or blame when it comes to not being able to do that. I think like forgiveness is such a powerful piece, but I'm sure you deal with this quite often, you know, dealing with coaching so many people. So love to hear your insights.
On like, wait, can you just repeat quick? Like, what part of it?
Yeah, just like so many people that are gonna like struggle to get into the gym that first day, right? Because you make it so it's approachable, and they're dealing with the shame of taking time for themselves and kind of not being able to forgive and let go of that, you know, or even on the other end of the spectrum, maybe the guy and I'm not meaning to separate this into men and women by any means. Like it's different for each person, and there's no one size fits all, but you know, more that like masculinity roadblock of I don't need to take care of myself type thing. So anything on that, like as people are dealing with those things, because I see it all the time, you know, what you've done to help kind of nurture them in.
Yeah, so a lot of time when people come and talk to me, and I've heard some things like I can notice when something's wrong with someone. And like, oh, like what's up with you today? How are you doing? And then people give responses like, oh, nothing, or like, just going through some stuff. And it's like, all right, well, let's dig into this a little more, you know. And like you said, you'll either find one or two things where it's like, oh, nothing, oh, nothing, oh, nothing, oh, nothing, oh, nothing, and people don't really want to dive into it, which is one side of the problem, or
Yeah.
people kind of like downplay their own problem. You know, like I feel like one of the things that I've heard from a lot of people is like, oh, like I have this amazing life. Like I have no right to complain about it. Like, oh, I have this amazing life. Like, you know, like I shouldn't be doing these things, or like, oh, I shouldn't feel like I don't have time to go take care of myself. Like I have this amazing life somewhere else. You know, it's like, all right, well, that's fine. I'm glad you have this amazing life. You know, like, and people say like, oh, like if you look at all these other people who have like rougher times, it's like, yes, like they have their rougher times, but like we also have to take time like to look at ourselves. Like every single body, every single person, every single life is important, and you have to know like you have to value yourself regardless of everything else that's happening in the world. Like you have to put value into yourself and say like, all right, like if something is going wrong with me, like yes, I understand it. Like my life is pretty great, or I'm happy, or like I may be like more affluent or something like that. But that doesn't, you know, that doesn't devalue any of my struggles. That doesn't devalue anything that you may be going through right now. Like it's still very important. It deserves to be talked about. It deserves to be heard about. It deserves to be discussed, you know? And so many people feel like, you know, like they don't have the right to go and focus on like building their own confidence. Like if their confidence is low, some people don't feel like they have the right to go and like take care of their health if like someone else in their family is going through something health wise themselves, and they may be the caregiver or something like that. And it's like, no, like what you're going through is important, and you need to focus on it regardless of what else is happening in the world. Like I said earlier, like before you focus on yourself, until you take care of yourself, you can't really care about all these other things that you want to care about as efficiently, you know?
Yeah.
And then for the other side of it, for the people who are like, you know, like, oh, like I can't open up because, you know, that's not manly enough or whatever it may be, you know, not to put like a gender on it, but like I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I'm
that was my
strong.
bad for
Yeah.
opening.
I'm too strong to do that, you know? And it's like, all right, so let's take a step back. Which one is harder for you then, to open up and tell me about what you're going through right now, or to just say that I'm too strong to do it? Because the real one, and the one that's actually harder, and the one that would make you stronger, is that side that you're having to struggle with doing, you know, like is opening up and talking about these things. Like that's the real tough thing in life, is like anyone can say like, oh, I'm too strong to talk about these things. And like, oh, like I don't want to go into these things, but it's like, you know, like it actually takes real strength, you know, like real strength to open up and to like talk about things that are tough for you, you know, to talk about things that happen in your life, to talk about like a lack of confidence or whatever it may have. Like that's rough things to talk about. I can talk to you, Joseph, and look at you and say like, oh, like I'm too strong for that, you know, like that. And I don't need to say that, but for me to like open up and tell you these actual things that are happening in life, like that takes a lot out of me, you know. actual strong, tough thing to do, you know? So just like whichever side of that spectrum you fall on, like taking those notes and be like, either, you know, I need to value my life and see that I am important, what I am going through is important. Or if I think I'm too strong, then let me work on maybe doing the actual strong thing and like getting some type of help or guidance or just talking about it, you know?
Yeah, no, so good. The line that you used that I'm like, dang, that's so good is value my life. You know, like I don't think too many people I've ever heard use it from that perspective. It's like it's not about where you want to go or where you're even at or putting on the mask or anything. It's like, do you value your life? And
Yeah.
like when you can answer that with full transparency, then no matter what, the steps are gonna unfold one at a time in front of you. Because if you're like, yes, I value my life, well, then you can't not turn away from some of the behaviors that aren't serving that life that you value. So I think
Yeah.
that's absolutely critical. So I love that line for sure. And you know, the other thing that I was thinking about as you're talking is, you know, there's like two types of language, right? There's the language of the brain, which is all in words, because that's what we, you know, in whatever language like we have learned growing up or the mini. And so we have words to be able to communicate, to be able to talk. And then there's the language of the body, and the body just has feelings, right? It's just this giant sensory organ. And we know that there's 10 times as many afferent fibers as efferent fibers. Your efferent fibers run from your brain down to your body, efferent, effect, right? As opposed to afferent, the affect. Your body is really affecting your mind, like affecting it, right? It's through those afferent fibers. And so it's interesting as you're talking, like I'm reflecting on all of that and how really all of these subjects, it's not anything to do with language or, you know, speaking of the brain or these words that we even need to do. It's like we need to communicate with each other, understanding what these feelings are. And if we do that, because you were saying like, you know, your situation of confidence is the same as someone else's, but it may be on a totally different spectrum, but they're not, you're trying to say, don't like devalue where you're at just because you may be affluent or anything. And that was so spot on, right? Because if I feel anxiety and you feel anxiety and billionaire Bill Gates feels anxiety, like it's all the same feeling. It's all the same feeling within the body, right? And or a lack of confidence or fear or any of these feelings. And so we, you know, we can never argue with someone's feelings or devalue them. So if you're having them, they're a real thing. And if we meet at that playing field on that level of feelings, I can empathize with you because I'm human and I've experienced that. And so then therefore, you know, you as a coach and other people that are going through the same journey can be that environment and you can be that guide to walk people through. So I think that's such a critical piece. If we can get to a place of feelings, you know, that identity shift is inevitable. Because then we're talking about what actually matters.
Big time.
Cool, man. Yeah, good stuff. You triggered some really good stuff for me. So much appreciated. So before I ask my last question, you drop a ton of good content. Like anybody that wants to learn proper form on fitness stuff, it wants to learn the proper exercises to do and fun, unique stuff, definitely needs to follow you. So where can they find what you're putting out? Where's your gym located? Website for all that. So drop your info here, sir.
So anybody trying to look at, you know, nutrition tips, form, or anything like that, you can check us out on Instagram at Aion Training, Aion Training, or you can check out my personal page where I post a lot of things lately, at Marcus_McDuffie, McDuffie. Same two things. If you look up Marcus McDuffie Fitness and Aion Training on Facebook, you'll find a bunch of other dope topics, a bunch of videos on like how to eat better, like small hacks and things like that are going to be coming up. So check in for there if you want a little sneak peek on like how to make your life easier in that way. And as far as like website, you can check us out at Aion training.com. And you'll see a lot of testimonials and videos of like what we are and what we do on the website as well. Oh yeah,
super dope.
Yeah, Pasadena people, SoCal.
Yeah. So the gym's located in Pasadena, but I know you do a lot of online stuff too for people, so that's always good. And what's good about your content, man, is it's so well rounded. So if you're dealing with an injury, like there's going to be some content there that's walking you through, like, you know, knee stuff, low back stuff, like shoulder care, like all these amazing things. And then if you want to get strong, you definitely sign on to watch his Instagram page, his personal one, _ Marcus McDuffie, because he's got plenty of videos, you know, benching high 300s, squatting, you know, 2,000 pounds, and I'm just kidding, not that heavy, but he's got some badass numbers. So super legit across the board. But then I'll also like the nutrition stuff and quick tips and mobility drills and stuff. So just completely well-rounded from that regard, which kind of, matches the message of wanting to be lifelong strong and live a long, healthy life. It's about having all of those elements, not just chasing one. So I appreciate the stuff that you're putting out. So I look to it for inspiration for sure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So last question. What do you believe it takes to truly transform? What is the truth ultimately of transformation?
Truly transform. I would say there has to be a belief that you can do it in the first place, and that may not be something that you have at the beginning, like you may be sitting there listening to this podcast right now, and you don't actually believe that you can get to where you want to, but you just have to go in and take that first step. Believe that you can take the first step, and then something that they talk about as well is you're putting coins in your piggy bank of that new personality, where it's believe that you can do this first step, accomplish the first step. Believe you can do that next step, accomplish that next step. And then every time that you accomplish that next thing, it builds up to your overall belief that, sorry, this delivery here.
It's all good.
The belief that this is possible for you, that's the biggest thing is the moment that you believe that you can get from where you are to where you want to be, everything in between becomes so much easier. If you don't have that belief, or if you're not working on to get better at that belief, it's tough, if not impossible, to bridge that gap to where we are now, to where we want to be, how we want to feel, how we want to, whatever it may be. So that'd be my biggest thing that people need to work on.
Yeah. We're either limited by our beliefs or empowered by them. And so just bringing awareness to that and utilizing that is so critical. So then I got to ask, do you believe that the Cowboys will beat the Giants this upcoming Monday? Do you believe that the Cowboys currently number one in the NFC East? Do you believe, my friend?
I mean, I don't even have to think about that. That's inevitable. We're going to the Super Bowl right there. It's easy.
Good stuff. I couldn't resist. So when people are listening to this, it's November 2nd. So we'll see how they do on Monday against the Giants.
My birthday too, man. They got to win on my birthday.
Oh, that's some love. Yeah, they can't let you down. So
right.
I'll reach out. I'm friends with everybody. So I've just been keeping that a secret that, we hang out whenever I go there. So good stuff, man. Well, I greatly appreciate it. Now you got package deliveries. Deliveries coming in left and right. So I better let you go. But thank you again, my friend. We'll link up all your stuff in the show notes. So.
Definitely, man. Appreciate seeing you soon. Hope to see you soon.
All right, my friends, thanks again for listening to another great episode. Now, I do have one request. If you know of someone that's got a amazing success story, or if you know of a transformational coach or transformation authority figure with insights and lessons that need to be shared, we'd love to talk to any of these people. There's a good chance we can have them on one of the next episodes, and they continue to help us all grow as we continue to unveil the truth of what it takes to truly transform. Last thing, love for you to head on over to iTunes and hit that 5-star review button. Helps to get this message out and continue to transform more lives. As always, my friends, Coach Joseph Hawthorne, peace be the journey.